Now, Senator Warren recently went to a congressional event to actually go after regulators for not going after the big banks. So I love this. And this is why we love Elizabeth Warren. Now, she's just a junior senator, right? She just got elected. And already, she's actually focused on doing her job, which is amazing when it comes to our Congress. Because there's almost nobody in Congress that actually does their job, especially a junior senator. And when's the last time you heard Al Franken do anything? He's a junior senator. Now, a lot of people know, a lot of these junior senators, they rely on big money to get elected, and then they pretty much shut their mouth for their first term. Elizabeth Warren, not shutting her mouth. She's going all up in. So she is going right up the regulator's ass, and that's what we like. She's actually doing what the people who elected her to do. Or at least she's trying. Now, at that event, she actually said, quote, "We have got to get back to running this country for American families, not for its largest financial institutions." And she points out how little things have changed since 2008. Yeah, they actually have changed for the worse. It was supposed to get better once President Obama got into office, but, laugh along with me, right? It didn't. It got worse. Now, how much worse? Well, since 2008, the banks have got even bigger. Well, how big? Well, 4 of the largest banks are actually 30% larger than before the crash. The big banks got even bigger. And the 5 biggest banks together hold more than half of the bank assets in America. That's a lot of assets. Just for 5 banks. They are still too big to fail. Now, because the banks are so huge, we run the risk of another bailout. Especially since Wall Street banks have been writing legislation and getting it passed to water down Dodd-Frank and any sort of financial reform. Now, you water down Dodd-Frank and allow for risky bets like, derivatives, to be put back into accounts and be covered by the FDIC. That's exactly part of what caused the recession in the first place, the crash in 2008. You had all these risky bets. These bets went bad. They brought down Lehman. And we're already heading in that direction again. Now, speaking of the bailouts, there's some research on how much the cost of the crash was to American taxpayers. Now, get this. It's estimated that this crash had cost up to $14 trillion and $120,000 for each American household. Now, that includes a lot of things, actually. That includes factors like lost economic output for the last few years, GDP, and other indirect costs that are associated with the crash. Almost every cost that you can conceive of, they put it in this study. So that's why that number is so incredibly high. Now back to Elizabeth Warren. Now in her speech, she focused on getting some legislation passed. Now she's actually working with John McCain, which is kind of funny. John McCain actually has interest in breaking up the banks as well and helping to build up Dodd-Frank instead of tear it down. Now John McCain, that's one issue that I can agree with John McCain. Now, I don't care where it comes from. A good policy idea is a good policy idea, and I don't care who backs it. I'm not playing this Democrat versus Republican, red versus blue game. If there's a good idea from the other aisle, the other side of the aisle, I'm all for it. And so I definitely agree with John McCain on this one. I think he's in the right to work with Elizabeth Warren. Now, like I said, back to Warren. She was speaking at the Roosevelt Institute for Americans for Financial Reform, and she said, quote, "Where are we in making sure behemoth institutions on Wall Street can't bring down the economy again?" Well, that's a really good question. I would say that we are not anywhere. We haven't gone anywhere with this. In fact, like I said, it's gotten worse. She continues. and make wild gambles that suck up all the profits in the good times and stick the taxpayer with the bill when it goes wrong. Yeah, well, it's socialism for the rich and capitalism for the rest of us. Privatize the gains and socialize the losses, if you want to say it that way. Basically, it's just another way of saying, hey, the banks are fucking us. She continues, 3 years since Dodd-Frank was passed, the biggest banks are bigger than ever, the risks to the system have grown, and the market distortions continue. And now she also added that the regulators that we have right now do not give her much reason for confidence. No kidding. That's because of this revolving door that we have. Regulators will get sweet, high-paying jobs in the industry that they've been charged to regulate after they get done with their terms. Why do we allow this to happen as well? Why is it that you can regulate an industry, do exactly what the regulators want, and then get an awesome high-paying job after your time in government is done? That's not right. And I'm glad Elizabeth Warren is fighting against that as well. Now, of course, in contrast to Warren's remark, President Obama, during a confirmation of one of his appointments to a regulator position, well, he's still touting the Dodd-Frank as historic Wall Street reform. Historic Wall Street reform. Boy, we sure nipped that problem. Sure, we sure got this one handled. No more regulation. Everything's fixed. We're good. Bullshit. Historic reform. Look, President Obama is incredibly establishment. He's so pro-Wall Street. Some of his largest donors in 2008 were these big banks. And then, well, and then he got backdoor. Then he gave the banks backdoor bailouts. I mean, and all sorts of sweet breaks. Named a lot of regulators, or named a lot of industry leaders into very important cabinet level posts. Historic reform. Is that the change that you wanted? Is that the change that you voted for? To have the fox guard the hen house? That's essentially what it is. But hey, that's what we get when our system is run by the money. And it's also what we get when we have this, when we allow this giant revolving door between business and government to exist. We need rules. We need good rules. But I think more importantly, we need to get the money out of politics in order to be able to make those rules. And I think that's the first order of business. We've got to get the money out of politics. Hey, thanks for watching this video. Please leave a comment below. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button and share with your friends. If you want to see more, go to our channel at youtube.com/TYTNation. And if you really want to support the show, support this channel, go to our fundraising campaign at www.patreon.com/TYTNation. The website is in the description below. Thank you guys, and keep watching.